back for Arfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Arfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end.
Burnley win the next ball. It's Rory now. On the outside. Decent.
He got it. Ashley Barnes with it. What a cross from Rory. And there was Ashley Barnes. And Burnley leading the derby.
Oxy quickly finds Benson in space at the byline. Can Burnley get a goal here? Back for Brownell. Saved by the keeper.
Burnley won it to the end. That is magnificent. They deserve that.
Only by Paul Teller. Off for a hat-trick.
He's got it. Hat-trick for Nathan Teller. Oh, he's on fire at the minute. 3-0 Burnley. It's Nathan Teller's day.
And Burnley are 3 up here. Fantastic derby. Here's Benson. And he go on the outside. Comes inside. Top shot.
Oh, the goal. Manuel Benson once more. That is top class.
Burnley have done it. Fantastic. Clarets deserve the championship title. They've been the best side throughout the campaign. Burnley have won the second tier. What a fantastic achievement. The players have been magnificent.
Yes, hello and welcome along to the latest instalment of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Redmond, ahead of the dreaded trip, should I say, to the Etihad Stadium to face Manchester City. God's sake, we all hate going there, but we're all going there again every single time. What's the stat? We lost 5-0 there 4 years in a row, and then one of them was the 6-0 in the cup. I genuinely don't understand why every single year we all decide to go there. But as usual, Burnley fans travelling in their numbers, and I will bring in a City fan in just a second, but I'm going to do something a little bit different here. So I'm going to do something a little bit bigger. But on the 12th of October, I'm going to be running my first ever half marathon. Some of you that are close to me or know me personally will know that I've been training for this for the last, 3-4 months. I've even ran a 10K in there to try and get my first race experience. I did the Wigan 10K not long ago. Did it in about 49 minutes, which I'm very impressed with, and finished 550th out of 3,000. So the training's going well. But I am going to be running the Manchester Half Marathon, which is obviously a lot further. I think it's 21.5k off the top of my head, and I can do that distance. I am going to complete it. But I'm going to put a link in the description for those of you who want to donate. Obviously, there's no pressure. You don't have to. £1, 100 quid if you want, or it's all really appreciated if you do that. But I'll be taking on the Manchester Half Marathon, and I'm doing it for St Anne's Hospice, and that is an incredible charity that provides specialist care and comfort to people living with life-limiting illnesses, should I say, while also supporting their families and carers across Greater Manchester and beyond. So, like I said, the link is in the description. By the time I put this out, because I'm recording it on Wednesday, I'm not going to stick it out till Wednesday night, Thursday morning. If you follow us on social media, you probably will have seen some links, and I'm posting out tonight as well. So the link is in the description. Just click that. Donate what you can, whatever you can. Even if it's 50p, it will be appreciated. But if you can't find it in the description, or I've forgotten, which is usual for me, you will be able to find it on social media. But anyway, I digress. Enough about me and what I'm doing. Let's do what this show is actually for, and let's bring in the Manchester City fan. And I'm pleased to introduce David Mooney from the Blue Moon podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad, thanks, Joe. Not too bad. Can I just say as well? I'd live where I live in Stockport is not far from a radio station that I used to work for, and we used to call it St Anne's Hospice a lot. They do a lot of great work, so credit to you. Credit to you.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Let's talk about Man City then. Let's talk about your season so far, because it's not really gone to plan for Man City anyway. It's only 5 games in, admittedly, so this is a bit of exaggeration, but all the way down in 9th in the Premier League, it's almost like you're having a Man United season there. In fact, that's a good season for Man United. That's a good season for Man United, to be fair, these days, 9th in the Prem. But it is strange to see you down there, even after 5 games, and obviously a couple of defeats in there as well. You lost to Spurs, which seems to be the norm these days. I don't know what Spurs have over you guys, and lost at Brighton as well. A couple of good wins in there as well. Obviously beating United, Wolves should be beating them, to be fair, and a decent draw, to be fair, at the Emirates at the weekend. But your thoughts on your season so far, please, mate?
Yeah, it's very new. They're obviously building towards something rather than the being anywhere near the finished product just yet. And I kind of liken it to. So back in 2019-20, when Liverpool won the league the last time, City were basically not in that title race for a good period of the season. Liverpool were phenomenal. I think they won something like the first 18 of the first 19 games. They were streets ahead by the halfway point, and City just couldn't keep up. By the end of the season, City had kind of there was the joke because that was the season that ended in lockdown. City were the most socially distant team in the Premier League table. They had the most points between the two positions either side of them. They were so comfortably second that it was that it was untrue. And then the following season, they obviously had some issues to work out. And I know the season started late and everything else, and they started in kind of end of September. But they didn't go top of the table till about February. They were kind of dogging around the middle of the table around Christmas, and then slowly kind of put a bit of a run together, got top of the table in February. And by the end of April, everyone was talking about how inevitable it was City had won the title. So I don't rule out something happening this season. There's certainly scope for them to be able to put something together. And if you've seen the last three games, Guardiola's been talking about wanting to see the fight and the spirit and all that sort of stuff. I mean, he's certainly seen that in the last week. The tactics, he says there's things to improve, and there's a lot to improve, kind of with the ball, without the ball. But just in terms of pure endeavour, they showed that on Sunday at the Emirates. They basically went to the Emirates and he had two choices really. Either he picked another 11 that had a lot more energy in the legs after having played Napoli on the Thursday and United the Sunday before, or he went with consistency and vibes. And he went with consistency and vibes, went unchanged, and just said, whatever happens, like we are going to dig in for this. And don't expect City to play like that for the majority of the season. But it's interesting that they can now do it, because I was one of those. I wouldn't have, if you'd have said to me City will sit in and defend the lead for. I mean, they got the lead on 9 minutes and they conceded the equaliser on 95, I think it was. So if you just
sounds familiar, conceding that late.
It's you kind of think, like, if you were going to back any team to do it, City's not really one of those that you would say could kind of go back to the wall and head everything away. Certainly at a place like Arsenal, where they've built an identity on set pieces recently. And they just got on with it. So the fight is there. I don't know where that leads us this season. I don't know how close to a title challenge they get. But I think half the battle is getting this team to feel good again after last season, and I think they're feeling good again, and that's certainly a positive.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I'm glad you mentioned the title race in the previous seasons where you were miles behind, and it did become a running joke amongst most football fans. It's like, City is still going to win it. Yeah, they might be 25 points behind. Obviously, I'm exaggerating, but they're still just going to turn into that absolute juggernaut that City always do, win 400 games out of 400 and win the title comfortably. Can you do it this season, though? I know you said there you think you potentially can, but I'm just looking at the league table again. You're on 7 points. Liverpool already have double that on 15. So that's 8 points ahead of you that Liverpool are at the minute. And it's already quite a decent gap. Now, Liverpool have looked, in terms of results, good. In terms of performances, not so great. And are you worried that Liverpool are going to get better and kick on and then just be miles away ahead of everyone else, which is what I think will happen? Or do you think they're just going to keep stuttering and eventually they're going to get found out and maybe start dropping away? And that's when your likes of yourselves, Arsenal, maybe even Chelsea can come into it.
Yeah, it goes one or two ways, doesn't it? Either it all catches up with them and they can't keep getting away with it in the last minute, or they iron out the problems that are causing them to have to get away with it in the last minute, and they just become a better team. My gut instinct is that, given the money they've spent and the quality they've brought in, I think that should lead them towards ironing out the problems. Because if you look at the app, like, there's been a running joke about Florian Wirtz hasn't started the season particularly well. It's like, surely he's only going to get better. You know what I mean? Like, surely he's only going to improve the team. Isak's barely played since he's arrived. Surely, like, he was phenomenal for Newcastle. Surely he will be the same for Liverpool. You know, Ekitike's been great so far, and I mean, I know he's suspended for the next game after the daft second yellow he got. But like should those are the sorts of players that should find some consistency. They've done what I think a lot of City fans criticise City for not doing in previous years, and that is strengthening from a position of strength. You look at the transfer City made in 2023 after having won the treble, and then 2024 last summer. You kind of go, well, like surely, like there is clearly money to spend. PSR wise, well, I mean, we talk about the charges and everything else. We should get an outcome to that soon. But like, even if you take on face value, like ignore the charges for a second, they haven't spent any money in the last couple of years. So there was obviously money to spend because they spent it in the January and they spent it this summer. And they didn't do it when they were in the position of strength. They did it when they needed to rescue the situation, having got out of hand last season. So I like when it comes to Liverpool and the title challenge, I think City can mount a title challenge. Like low key, City actually did that thing again last season of when it got to the running, they just started winning games and going unbeaten. They just did it in a way that wasn't particularly attractive to the eye. A lot of last season's problems were that teams would run straight through the middle of City. And so Guardiola's answer was everybody in the middle. He picked all the midfielders, just stuck them all in the centre of the pitch and went, you're not going to run through us today. And you got kind of really stodgy performances, but it meant City won 2-1 or 2-0 or 1-0, or like they got over the line. And in the end, they finished third, but they finished third kind of comfortable. They were only, I think, 3 points behind Arsenal in the end, but like they weren't, like metaphorically, they weren't 3 points behind Arsenal. They were a long way behind them in that sense. So I think it's building blocks. I think for this season, yes, they can mount a title challenge. I think it depends on Liverpool and Arsenal and what they do. I think where City are going, the direction of travel is good. And I think it's kind of building on the end of last season to make things a bit more stable and a bit more creative. And then going forward, what is your new identity? Because this will effectively be, I suspect, City 3.0 under Guardiola. I don't really know kind of versions anymore because there's been so many different little tweaks that he's done down the years. Maybe it's City 4.0, I don't know. But he's obviously building towards something new. That might come a little bit too late for this season to actually be a title challenge, depending on how far ahead Liverpool are at the time it all clicks. Because once it clicks, I think you're looking at a different City again this season.
Yeah, well, it seems to be the case every season, doesn't it? Well, you mentioned it then, the PSR charges. I'll be honest with you, it's been going on for that long. I've completely forgotten about it. So do you know what the update is on that and where City stand with that? Are we going to see City do a Juventus and go all the way down to League Two, or does it all seem pretty much sorted in the not brushed under the carpet as such? That's a term that makes it sound, like you've done something ridiculous wrong. You may have done something. I've not really looked into it. I've just seen it all in the news. I'm like, oh, well, this will be interesting. But what's the latest on that?
The latest is there is no news, which is not what anybody wants to hear.
I'm surprised Fabrizio's not tweeted that. He loves a no news tweet, doesn't he?
Yeah. So basically, they were charged. The hearing was in kind of last October, November time. I think it lasted for about 8-10 weeks. And we are literally just waiting for the panel of KCs that oversaw the hearing to hit publish on the report with the outcome. And then we find out there. You speak to people around the club, and I mean, they say they're confident that it's gone their way and there's nothing to worry about. Yeah. I mean, they would say that. I don't know. I don't know what the mood music is otherwise. What I would say is from the people that I've heard that from, they are people that don't have any reason to kind of fabricate it, if you know what I mean. They're not like the press. It's not like the press office. It's not like it's just kind of people who are in positions going, yeah, well, you know what, but the club seem confident, so we'll go with it. And I think, from my understanding, is we all find out as soon as the KCs hit publish. I don't think anybody at City actually knows whether it's gone their way or not. I don't think anyone at the Premier League knows whether it's gone their way or not. I think we all just literally find out when it's published. They might get 1 or 2 hours notice to kind of prepare statements and stuff, but I don't imagine it's going to be much. I hear from one source who kind of would prepare sort of stuff ready for what would be said, that they just don't know. They have no idea. They're waiting as well as everybody else. So the wait goes on. We wait and see. If they're found guilty, then the punishment is unlimited. They can, like, the punishment, I think, is this is where I get a bit sketchy. I think it's set by the Independent Commission, but it might be set by the Premier League. I'm not sure. Either way, I'm sure it's the commission, because either way, the power is unlimited. They can go back, and because one of the jokes was they could enforce games to be replayed, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm sure everybody would love that. Let's just replay the entirety of that 10-year period that it covers.
Yeah,
fantastic. We'll go back and make sure all
let's
those
just
games
wipe up all
sorted.
the nils.
Yeah.
In fact, can we replay the FA Cup quarter final, please? Yeah, let's do that. Let's replay that FA Cup quarter final.
But we all have to go. Like, can you play your new squad? But we have to go and get all the players that played for us in that game. Like how does it work? I don't know. So
what would happen if we then win the FA Cup quarter final? Do we then play Man United in the semi final? We played that year. United are getting dragged into it.
Yeah. So I don't know. The most obvious kind of sensible solution seems to be not historic punishments, because it opens cans of worms. Let's say for argument's sake, City were found guilty and then had those titles and things stripped off them because they were retroactively deducted points. Then it opens up a can of worms of kind of relegated teams being able to say, well, City shouldn't have been able to take points off us, and we went down, and like the litigation that would follow would be a minefield. Now, that's not to say that they shouldn't do it, because like maybe it's right that they do that they do open that can of worms. But I don't know what appetite there is for the Premier League to actually go and do that. There'll be appetite from fans of clubs that would have won titles otherwise, but beyond that, I don't really know what they'll be. My suspicion is that if they are found guilty, then it will be they kind of have to be relegated at the very least, because it's a very serious charge that they're facing. But if they're found guilty, then I think punishments will kind of be going forward rather than looking back. But I mean, the power is there to bring retroactive punishment. So we will see. The other side of this as well is I think a lot of the league, and I think like not really Burnley fans, because you said before, it doesn't really like you'd forgotten about it. It's not really been in your consciousness. But there's the likes of Arsenal fans and Liverpool fans, United fans, that sort of thing. I think they also need to be prepared that City might not be guilty. That City might actually be found not guilty in this. So as much as there are people whetting their appetites for, what might happen if City are guilty, there's also like the side of the coin is, an outcome is City are found not guilty and everything just goes back to how it was. So again, we wait and see. I don't know.
Really is a can of worms, isn't it? But let's get back to on the pitch matters. You mentioned it earlier. City have kind of changed the style. I say kind of. They've changed the style a little bit this season. Whether that's because of some of the teams you've played, obviously you referred to it at the Emirates and how you're sort of like we're a little bit more pragmatic. You sat back, tried to soak up the pressure. Obviously, the goal that you scored was a counter-attacking goal, which I didn't think Haaland had in him really. The touch with his left foot, then the finish with his right foot was sublime. I mean, I know he's a good player, but I just refer when I think of Haaland, I just think of sort of like fox in the box, poaching, sort of like heading goals and kicking him in at 150 mile an hour from about 3 yards out. Not that he's not a good striker, but that was a different side to him that I saw. I presume against Burnley that the style will be sort of like similar to what we're used to City in the past. You'll obviously have a lot of possession as Liverpool did against us. You'll try and pass us to death. You'll try and drag us out of the low block, which I assume is a tactic that we'll employ. So talking about the change in style is my question. The change in style that you've seen from City this season, and then sort of like bridge that into what sort of style you're expecting against Burnley.
Yeah, so I will be astounded if Guardiola does again on Saturday what he did last Sunday. If he says to Burnley, "Go on, you have the ball," I think everybody will be a bit confused because like we'll go, "Well, what do we do with this?" And you'll go, "Well, we don't want the ball. What's going on?" Yeah. So I suspect a lot has been made in this change of style. I suspect it isn't going to be as stark as people expect it will be. The irony, of course, is that when Guardiola first arrived at City, a lot of the problems they had was keeping soft goals out at one end and scoring when they had chances at the other end. They were brilliant in the middle of the pitch, but then they had problems in both boxes. And the irony is, of course, at the start of this season, they've been brilliant in both boxes, but had a bit of trouble in the middle of the pitch. So it's kind of been the inverse of everything else. They don't want to go long. They don't want to start being kind of Sam Allardyce, Mourinho, Simeone ball sort of teams, but it's an arm. It's a tool that they have in the armory when the time comes that they might need to do it. So I'm thinking, like, don't fall into the trap of thinking that a new pragmatic City looks like what it did on Sunday. Obviously, what it's more likely to look like is City keep the ball. They do the 1,000 million passes thing that Guardiola loves anyway. But when there's an opportunity to counterattack, maybe they take it instead of turn it down. The number of times that I've seen City over the last kind of 5-6 years have the opportunity to break away, but they go, no, we're going to keep possession. We're not going to allow. If we take this counterattack or take the opportunity to counterattack and miss, then all your players are still at the other end of the pitch. All it takes then is one quick ball over the top of everybody, and you outnumber us at the back, and we could be in trouble here. So what we want is all of your players to retreat into your own half, and we will trust our ability to pass it and drag you out of position, create an opportunity, and score that way. Yes, it might mean that we turn down a counter-attack when there's a pretty good chance of a goal. But overall, we are much more stable. We will be much more secure and much more likely to win in this manner. And maybe it just means that going forward, actually, City will go, you know what? We'll have a go at this counter attack, and we'll see what we can do. And I mean, Haaland has been good at that in the past. It's much more. I think it's much more his skill set than some of the fox in the box stuff, because I have a real bee in my bonnet about how somebody who's 6'3" can't head the ball, because like he doesn't score enough headers.
We had the same with Vegos, mate. He was 6'6", and he somehow shrunk when he jumped. It was bizarre.
Yeah, the number of times the ball goes in the air to Haaland, and you're right, just pop it in, and he heads it over, and you're just like, come on, mate, just get your head over it and pop it in the net, will you, please? Like you can do literally everything else, just head it in, please. That's all I'm asking you to do. And it's wild, isn't it, that I can be so critical of somebody who's scored more goals than they've played games. I think the counter attack is something that we'll see a little bit more often. And the new assistant as well, Pep Linders, who was Klopp's assistant at Liverpool for a long time. Apparently, he introduced a new thing in training where where counter attack goals were worth 2 points instead of 1. With an idea to kind of
sounds very Liverpool, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, just to kind of boost the kind of the feeling around playing counter attack. So maybe we'll see a little bit more counter attacking from City this season. But by and large, City will still want possession. They'll still want to pass it, and they'll still want to do the making the other team drop into their own half. I think maybe it just means that if they're defending a lead away from home in the Champions League, and the other team are going siege mentality, City can sit in and go, right, okay, we'll head this away for a bit, and that's what we'll do. I think Sunday at the Emirates was a means to an end, and I think they looked at it and went, Arsenal are better than us at the moment, so how can we be safe and secure? And that's to not get dragged out of position, which I accept is a very Mourinho and Simeone thing, but Guardiola basically said afterwards, I hated myself for doing it. So I don't think we'll see it too often. I think on Saturday we'll see City trying to force Burnley back into their own box, make you stay there, and kind of keep passing it. Because the other side of it as well is they tried to do that against Brighton, they tried to do that against Spurs, they tried to do it against Wolves. It just didn't really work that well. So the performances, they may look a little bit more pragmatic and a little bit more like City are willing to go long. But again, maybe that was because they kind of had to, because what they wanted to do wasn't really working.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, the game's on Saturday. We're recording this on Wednesday. By the time everybody listens to this, we'll all know the result of your game. But you are actually playing tonight in the Carabao Cup. You've got Huddersfield. Is it away from home?
Yeah, it's at their place.
Yeah. I suppose it's going to be 9, 10, 11 changes and won't have any effect on Saturday whatsoever.
Yeah, I should think so. He went unchanged from the Manchester derby into Napoli into Arsenal, and by the end of the Arsenal game, he basically said nobody had any energy in the legs to be able to do the pressing that they wanted to do. Now, I mean, you would argue potentially that. I mean, it doesn't. It's not a massive stretch, is it, to say that Huddersfield away is slightly easier than Arsenal away?
I think that's fair enough.
But I still suspect that he won't go unchanged again for this one. In fact, I think he said as much in the pre-match press conference. There will be an opportunity for some squad players, some younger players. And there are some players that kind of need minutes to be able to kind of be competitive in the squad again. You look at, I mean, just to pluck one name out of the air, Savinho has barely played this season. He was subject to a Willie won't he transfer story over the summer about potentially going to Tottenham. When the window closed, the only opportunities he's had to be in the team are United, Napoli, and Arsenal properly after the end of the window. And Jeremy Doku's been fantastic. So it's been a case of they've not wanted to take him out. And that's meant that basically Doku has played 3 lots of 90 minutes. He came off against Arsenal a little bit early, but he's played a lot of time, and Savinho's barely played. So it kind of strikes me as this is a game for those players that haven't been able to get into the team yet to get some minutes under the belt. The sad thing is there's a couple of players who you'd like that for who are injured. You've got the likes of Ryan Aït-Nouri and Ryan Cherky, for instance, who would who are going to be first team players like later down the line this season. Both of them are sidelined at the minute with injury, so there's that little downside. But yeah, we will see a very different City team at Huddersfield than we saw at the Emirates.
Yeah, so there won't be any tired legs on Saturday then, which is what we were kind of hoping for. A couple of players I want to mention, individuals. Erling Haaland, there's been talk of him having an injured back. I'm not sure how serious it is or whether or not he could potentially miss Saturday. What's the latest on him?
Again, Guardiola said it for Huddersfield that Haaland had it wasn't an injury, but it was kind of like a niggle. And so I don't think there was any prospect of him playing at Huddersfield anyway. So I just don't think he will, and I think he'll be fit for weekend.
That is a shame.
We'll find out more on Friday when he does his press conference. But I mean, Guardiola and injuries in press conferences, he's not exactly the most reliable, because he says people say all the time, how's Erling doing? And he'll say, well, we haven't trained yet. And I'm like, well, thanks for that non-answer.
I watched it live on Sky Sports yesterday. He said, how's Erling doing with his bad back? He said, I've not seen him yet.
Yeah.
Ring him up then, ask him. Ring the physio. You're going to a press conference, find this information out.
And then the press officer afterwards, when the press ask, kind of like, can we get a bit of clarity on like Mahrez or whoever, the press officer would go, well, yeah, you've just had the chance to ask the manager. You say, yeah, he's told us nothing. He never tells us anything. So I think Haaland will be fit for weekend. It didn't sound too serious, the back problem. It sounded a little bit more one of those that was just a little bit stretch it out, rest up a bit, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, fair enough. James Trafford, obviously City signed him in the summer from Burnley after Burnley signed him from City 2 years ago, obviously with the buyback clause and all that sort of thing. But then he went in, made a couple of mistakes. I think one of the mistakes was against Tottenham, if I remember rightly. Was then replaced by Donnarumma, who has since been voted the best goalkeeper in the world, although I'm not sure how serious you can take that when Victor Gyökeres got the best striker in the world. But Donnarumma is a good goalkeeper. Let's be fair.
He's not bad, is he? Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a strange one for Burnley fans. Like, well, they've just bought Trafford, and then now they're bringing him, and we're all thinking, how does Trafford feel? Like, he's come in. We know what Trafford's like. He's one of them, like, I want to play every single week. I remember before he signed for Burnley, he did an interview, and he's saying, if I go anywhere, I'm expecting to play week in, week out. And I know he'll still have that attitude now at City, because he's one of them. He's a bit of a mentality monster. As much as I did criticise him in the first season in the Premier League, I've always respected his mentality. And it's probably the difference between elite athletes and people like me and you. Well, me. I'm not going to bring you down with me.
No, I'm very much on that level of not being elite. Don't you worry.
Yeah. But I know he'll be very frustrated with the situation now. But what are City fans' thoughts on it? Because you must be thinking, well, why did we sign him then if we're just going to bring in Donnarumma? So it's an interesting dynamic there. What's going on with that?
Yeah, I tell you whose thoughts I really want to know is Stefan Ortega's, because basically the timeline is the Club World Cup happens, and at the Club World Cup, I think Ederson did an interview where he said, yeah, I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying here. He's wanted to leave for a couple of seasons in a row, so he's always been a low-key, might leave this summer sort of thing. And then he stayed last summer, and I think he'd had an offer from Saudi and was like up for taking it. But I think City put the foot down and said, look, we can't lose the goalkeeper this late in the window sort of thing. We got to say no to this. And he came round. He was the number one goalkeeper for the season, dropped out a few times. Ortega came in a few times. And then in the summer, he basically gave an interview. He said, "Yeah, I'm staying. I've got 1 year left on my contract. I'm gonna see that out at the very least, and I'll be here next season." To which then Stefan Ortega did an interview where he said, "Well, all options are open," because he had his eyes on wanting to be a number one either at City or somewhere. So as soon as Ederson's kind of nailed his colours to the mast, Ortega's interview was a little bit less committal and was a little bit kind of, yeah, well, I've not had any offers, but we'll see what happens. And I think he was pretty much looking for offers over the course of the season.
Yeah.
The opportunity to sign Trafford comes up. They sign Trafford, and I think the sort of succession plan there was Ederson will be number one this season. Trafford will be number two, come in for a few games, learn off Ederson. Then Ederson leaves at the end of his contract. Trafford takes over number one.
That's what I was expecting.
Yeah. And then basically the spanner in the works comes along because the Ederson rumours never really went away. And then the opportunity to sign Donnarumma came up when he couldn't agree the contract with PSG. And I think Luis Enrique said he wanted to go in a different way and all that sort of stuff. So the opportunity for Donnarumma came up, and the opportunity for Ederson to leave came up. And there was kind of a few conflicting stories about whether it was kind of Ederson will only leave if City can get Donnarumma. Meanwhile, Donnarumma will only join if Ederson leaves. And so you're kind of at that sort of standoff between two cowboys where like nobody's really fired.
That's exactly what I was picturing in there. Well, I was picturing the scene from the US Office where they're all pretending to be cowboys more than anything.
Yeah, but like nobody's fired the starting pistol on this. And then kind of somebody had to in the end. And I think Ederson made the move to go. City signed Donnarumma, and the theory being that Donnarumma will come in as number one and Trafford will remain as number two. The only problem then comes is that obviously Donnarumma's a lot younger than Ederson, and so he's not coming in to be number one for one season. He's coming in to be number one indefinitely, which is obviously not like what Trafford signed up for. So in many ways, you can feel a bit sorry for him in that regard, but at the same time, like it is professional football, and you kind of, I think a lot of these people know what the game is and know kind of how it's been. Donnarumma was more an opportunistic signing than something that was planned, but they've taken the opportunity, and now it's kind of left Trafford in this position, and it's left Ortega. They brought in Bettinelli. They brought in 3 goalkeepers this summer. They brought in Bettinelli from Chelsea to replace the outgoing Scott Carson. And I know it sounds
the best job in the world, best job
fantastic.
In the world, but did nothing and just lifted trophies all the time.
Absolutely amazing guy. So they've got the 3 goalkeepers there, and then Stefan Ortega's the 4th, and he hasn't found. They basically would like, can you leave, please, mate, because like there's nothing here for you anymore. And there was no offers that he wanted to take, or certainly no offers that he deemed good enough to take. He must have had offers from. Like if you were a championship side and you saw that City were getting rid of Stefan Ortega, you'd certainly go, yeah, all right then. But he's a Premier League goalkeeper for sure, so you can understand him not wanting to drop down a level. But at the same time, he's now not got a club for at least 6 months. So, he's got a club, he's just not going to get anywhere near the first team for 6 months, and that can't be easy. So, like the goalkeeping situation, it's been they're in a good position now, but it's kind of been quite a strange route that they've taken to get there.
Yeah, interesting. I do have levels of sympathy with the likes of Ortega, Trafford, and Raheem Sterling at Chelsea as well, who aren't getting played and are just being told that there's not really any games for you. But at the same time, they're being paid very handsomely to go to training at 10 in the morning, leave at 2 and play FIFA all day. So that's
I'd love to know whether it's better to be like in good spirits and around the first team and training with the first team and like seeing all your mates, but knowing that you're not going to get anywhere near the first team come the weekend, or if it's better to just be frozen out and have to train with the kids and be nowhere near it. You know what I mean? I don't know which.
Surely,
both are bad options.
I'd want to be seeing my mates and at least having a laugh rather than just be like, yeah, just go and train with this 15-year-old. Don't really want to do that. But again, they're all getting paid $200,000 a week to do so. So tell me to jump, and I'll ask how high for that sort of money. Another kind of link between the two clubs, Kyle Walker. Obviously, he's come into Burnley, done very, very well. We're very happy with him. What are your thoughts on Kyle Walker joining up with Burnley when you saw it? Did you think, that's a good signing for Burnley, or were you one of them like Leeds fans and Sunderland fans that were saying, oh, he's past it, it's awful, that's an awful signing? What were your thoughts on it?
If I'm being perfectly honest, I thought you'd signed. I thought you were in for a right ride because there was. I don't wish to be too harsh on the lad because he's up there in the conversation. Certainly, I mean, I would say the best Premier League right back of the last kind of 10 years or so.
It's him or Gary Neville, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, he was a big reason why City were able to play. They were able to play the way they played under Guardiola for so long. But his last 18 months at City was an absolute car crash of an 18 months. He was pretty much at the scene of the crime for pretty much every goal City conceded over that period. And it kind of all started with I don't know if you'll remember this, but the City went to Sheffield United early in 2023-24, and they were winning 1-0 with about 5 or 10 minutes to go, and the ball was played over the top, and Walker, I think, saved the corner, but in saving the corner, presented the ball to one of their players who squared it, and they equalised. And he gave the advertising boards an absolute battering with his studs. He basically went mad on the advertising boards, and it was at his old club. It was a mistake. It happens. And it was like he never really recovered from that moment. It was like consistently after that was just consistently making more and more mistakes that would compound errors to the point where it got to last season. And I mean, I don't know if you remember the 2-2 with Arsenal where John Stones scored in the last minute last season. The Arsenal goals, the first corner that they scored from, basically Kyle Walker was playing tag with whoever he was marking. I think it might be Gabriel, just kind of like hitting him on the chest and completely forgetting to mark him, and the ball comes in and he heads it in. And then the second goal, he's just caught, like he's the captain, he's called over to the referee to speak, and he's spending far too much time bossing everybody around about where to be. Arsenal take a quick free kick into the space that he hasn't got back into and score the second goal from it. And it's just kind of like, can you screw your head on, please? Can you get your head on it? And then when the going got tough last season, and I mean really tough, when I mean I like relatively tough for everybody else, but like for the way City were last season, I think they were going into games knowing that they were going to lose games because they just didn't have the players, they didn't have the energy, they had injuries and fatigue, and coming up against teams like Brighton and Bournemouth who would run far more than City were able to. It was perfectly obvious, I think, going into those games, City were gonna struggle. Kyle Walker basically said, "I want to leave." He was the club captain, and by the end of January, he's on loan at AC Milan. And you kind of like this. This doesn't really feel like the way for a club captain to behave. And so it felt at that time that he just couldn't do it at the top level anymore. So when Burnley came in, I was kind of like, yeah, he brings experience, but be careful what you wish for. I think I don't know ability wise if he's still there. And listen, if he's doing it, and credit to him if he's doing it, I was wrong. Fair play. Maybe the change has been what he needed, and it's really helped him to kind of be in a team where he doesn't have the same responsibilities for getting City up the pitch in the way that he does for Burnley. If at Burnley he's basically being asked to be a pacey defender and to defend, and it's working for him, then crack on, do that, because he deserves the end to his career that doesn't peter out, if that makes sense. He doesn't like what he achieved at City. He didn't deserve for it to end the way it ended. It just ended that way, and it's a bit sad, really.
We're very happy with him. I'm not sure what the difference is. Like you said, change of scenery, not as much responsibility, not going for titles, but we are quite a low defensive side. He's not 30, 40 yards up the pitch having to run back. So that will be helping him. You can see he's got bags of experience. You can see him sort of like bellowing orders around and things like that. There's been a few sort of like shouts on social media for him to be captain. I think that's a little bit extreme personally. It'd be harsh on Josh Cullen. I think Cullen's done a fantastic job so far. But yeah, we're very happy with Walker. And I put a post up recently asking who everyone's favourite signing of the summer was. Quite a few people were choosing Walker. I think the majority of people were choosing Dubravka, but quite a lot were choosing Walker, to be fair.
Yeah. The captain thing is interesting because, I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, Guardiola has spent his entire time at City letting the players vote for their captain. And like they all do a vote. They vote for the captaincy group, and then who is going to be captain as well. And last season, the players voted Walker. And over the summer, Guardiola basically said, "I wasn't happy with some decisions that were made. Bernardo Silva's going to be my captain for next season." And he basically broke all of his principles because of how last season went. And I mean, they always say, correlation is not causation, but Kyle Walker was voted captain, and then Guardiola ripped up the rule book of how he picks his captains.
Interesting. Well, this show normally lasts around half an hour. We've already gone past 40 minutes. That's not a bad thing. It shows how good of a talker you are, David.
I talk far too much. I'm sorry about that.
This is why you work in the radio, mate, I presume.
Yeah.
However, let's move on to predictions then, because I do like to do predictions before we go. So what's your predictions for the game, please, mate?
I think we'll see a lot more. I think it'll be a lot more like a traditional City Burnley game in that Burnley won't really have too much of the ball. I suspect you won't see that as necessarily a bad thing if you can keep your shape and keep organised, make it tough. I think City will see a lot more of the ball than they saw at weekend. Although, like in general, City's possession stats are down this season, so you might have more of the ball than you're expecting. But I don't think we will. I think if City end up having to defend a bit deeper, it's not necessarily the end of the world because they were okay at it at weekend. And it's the first time in a long time at weekend I felt pretty confident that City could defend set pieces. So if the Burnley plan would be to sit in deep and try and hit on the counter and hit with set pieces, then I would feel a lot more confident facing those set pieces than I have done in previous years. That isn't to say you won't score. That isn't to say that you won't get up the pitch and cause us problems. I can see it being not a. I think Burnley are a lot stronger than they've been in recent years coming to the Etihad, and I think having seen how much of a fight you put up against United and Liverpool, I think that I'm wary of that Burnley doing the same sort of thing. I think City will win, but I don't think it'll be anywhere near as easy as the scoreline has looked in the past. 2-0, 2-1, that sort of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. I've gone for 2-0. Similar sort of vein to you. I think, we're a lot more pragmatic now. We're not just going to go and open up against City. We're not just going to get, just let you do what you want. We will sit back. We will try and bully you off the ball and things like we did to Liverpool, and we will let you have the majority of the ball and sit in deep. But I think ultimately you're going to have too much quality. I'd rather lose 2-0 against City than 1-0 with a 95th minute penalty. So I'm going to go 2-0 in hope, in a way, that I'm not sat there frustrated again, like I was at Old Trafford, like I was at the Turf against Liverpool. Because
so close to getting something, fun.
Yeah, I'd rather just be like, right, we've lost. Let's get me caught on ready to go for full time whistle. Rather, we can do this. Actually, no. Here is a dagger straight in your heart, off your pop. I don't want that again. So 2-0 rather than 1-0.
That was the thing with weekend with Arsenal, is that absolutely the draw was the fair result. Arsenal dominated the ball. I don't think they had as much control as they thought as they said they did afterwards. City were dangerous on the counter-attack. They created a couple of good opportunities on the counter-attack. Arsenal created a little bit from set pieces. You go at the end of it, a draw is probably the fair result. But being 1-0 up with 2 minutes of stoppage time to go, you kind of go, we could have had it all, couldn't we? We could have nicked it.
Just think how much more valuable them 2 points would have been for both yourselves and us at this stage of the season already.
I know.
Anyway, we will wrap it up there, mate. But before we do you want to let people know where they can find you and the Blue Moon podcast content, please, mate?
Yeah, just search it out. Just search Blue Moon Podcast and you'll find it. It's pretty much, it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. You'll find a Spotify, Apple, all those sorts of places. Just search Blue Moon Podcast.
Nice one, mate. Well, I'm sure we'll link up later in the season, but good luck for the rest of the season, but obviously after Saturday.
You too.